Looks like we might be seeing some interesting signs of a potential turnaround, at least intraday. Apple, which is a stock that's kind of the captain of the ship that is the market, may be putting in a double bottom here. A little early to tell, but it's reverted to a key support level, and it seems to be finding buyers here. On my volume scanner, it is the most actively traded in a 3-minute time frame, and those volume bursts can be really important, with Apple seeing 1.32 thousand shares traded per minute. So a lot of people seem to be buying Apple. They're looking at their chart. They're seeing it's retracing a level it was at just about an hour and a half earlier and saying this looks like a pretty good opportunity. And a lot of these double bottoms are psychological patterns, right? You get that bottom. It tries to make a V bottom. The buyers get exhausted. They retrace back to the low and they give it another go. Now, if they can break it above, well, let's call it 162.50. That would be bullish because it's not only breaking above the double bottom middle, the potential double bottoms middle, but it would also be breaking above that VWAP level. So, Apple options right here, those 162.50s look pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and if you can probably do the 165s if you want to not put yourself at risk. But remember, though, as far as capital outlay, but remember, it's not as high a delta, so you got to weigh that up with your decision making. Obviously, and who you want, what your time frame is. Do you want short dated, etc. S&P starting to give us a little bit of money on that trade. Gee, that's some different. When you go through some of these individual stocks, some of them are just destroyed.
Yeah,
It's like 80-90% in weeks. Some of these have good money and good returns. So if they're wise, they use this as a dividend period. You just tap on a 1% dividend, and they will raise money and get their stock up by doing that. So you'll see a lot of smart companies do that. ESPR still getting pounded.
Microsoft seems to be trying to bottom here. It hasn't made a new low for the last hour and a half, and it's just kind of grinding sideways. Doing an under the hood check of the Nasdaq. Amazon seems to be putting in a bit of a rounded bottom here. It's retraced. It tested the lows, and it's just moved higher since it was back in that range. Just closing in at 33.89. Google. Intraday, similar story as Amazon. It hasn't made a new low. It's just kind of been retracing and moving back higher. Tesla, this one's really been beaten down today, down 5.17%. But like these others, it is off its lows. There's a bid coming back into the market here in these heavyweights in the Nasdaq, and I'm doing them in order. Facebook or Meta or whatever the heck it's called these days, it's just broke above its VWAP here at 305.32, and it's actually looking reasonably bullish. It could try to retrace quite a bit higher here. We just need to see shares take out 307.30. Looking at Nvidia, everyone's favorite semiconductor, it seems to be putting in a potential inverted head and shoulders that would validate at about 307. I'd like to see some volume in that. Adobe can't get much love today, down 8.37% in sympathy with DocuSign, which has lost almost half of its value. But it is still off of its lows here. And looking a little bit constructive when you zoom out on a weekly candle pattern. It could be trying to make a potential base. So Adobe may be worth watching here. I'd be more bullish of Adobe than DocuSign personally. I think Adobe has an actual moat. Netflix is well off its lows, and it kind of made the lows with the rest of the market around lunchtime. Everyone went out to lunch. The liquidity left, and a lot of things may do lows. But it's off its lows here. It's just above $600. It looks a little less bullish than some of the others I've named, with the exception of Adobe. PayPal, well off the lows, looks a lot like the pattern that we saw in Nvidia here. It's kind of an inverted head and shoulders. If it can bounce above, let's call it 183.50, I think we might see buyers really come back in and take it higher. Comcast is one of the few in the Nasdaq. It's actually green on the day. That's that bid for those low volatility large caps that I mentioned a little bit earlier. We can see that as Comcast might be trying to put in an intraday bull flag. And if it validates that, let's just draw some pretty lines here. Looks like it would need to break above 52. So we'd like to see some volume Comcast CSA above 52 to put in that bull flag. Cisco, Looks pretty bad, but it is off its lows. It's dumped more than others have. When they were stabilizing, it was dumping. So it's making a double bottom, but only much more recently.
That's
Pepsico,
been a disappointing stock for a long time, hasn't it, Cisco?
Yeah, Cisco. Just speaking as a tech person, if you were buying Cisco products, you've been disappointed in them for a while. Unfortunately, their Meraki acquisition, that wireless is really, it's not great. And again, everyone has their own stuff they like. If you like it, that's cool, and you do you. But from my experience, Cisco went from being like the creme de la creme. No one got fired for buying Cisco 20 years ago to now people are like, I'd rather get something else, maybe Juniper or Palo Alto or, something else. It's just not Cisco anymore. Pepsico, this is another low volatility, large cap, bid up today, up almost 2%. So really a strong day for PepsiCo. This is one of those days where when the rest of the market's puking, people seek safety. Comcast, PepsiCo, next one on the list, Costco. This thing just can't go down. Costco is a beast. It's putting in a nice bottoming pattern, but it's been up today. It's up 1% now. And Broadcom, we're going to leave it with this one. This one is selling in sympathy with some of these other semis, and it actually was making new lows when the rest of the ones I was mentioning were starting to stabilize, with the exception of Cisco. So, overall, under the hood in the Nasdaq here, it looks vaguely promising. That is to say, if all those patterns that I was talking about can start to break out of the levels that I had mentioned as resistance, we could see a broader turnaround in the market, as a lot of these large and mega cap Nasdaq and S&P stocks really do rule the direction of the market at the index level.
Right.